Welcome to r/slash Pettyrevenge, where OP gets revenge against a bunch of scammers. Our next Reddit post is from Boop and My Bop. I recently scam called my scam callers, and it got them to stop. They were calling 10 to 15 times a day, each time spoofing a US-based location, and had the exact same voicemail, which had caused me to need to delete my entire voicemail inbox 3 times weekly for at least a year. Extremely frustrating. So many calls during work meetings, important moments with friends, etc. Every single time, the same voicemail message. This is Jennifer from the senior underwriting team calling about your loan. I found a Reddit post about this specific scam, and in one comment, a guy claimed to have scam called them back and it got them to stop. So I decided, what the heck, let's see if it works. I called, put myself on mute, and hung up after 5 to 10 seconds of them talking. I did this exactly 266 times in 35 minutes, each time to the same number. I cycled through 20 to 30 employees with accents from Australia to India to Mid-Atlantic. At least 3 different company names they claimed to be from, and many scripts. Sometimes they'd start one script, then mess up and start on another. Other times they'd just say, "Hello?" The best was when they changed mid-script what company they claimed to be from. Then sometimes they'd say, "Hello, Mr. OP." After about 150 calls, I started getting intermittently hung up on immediately after they answered the call. I knew that I was getting to them. Finally, at call 260, I reached the final effing boss. In a deep mob boss type voice, I hear, and I kid you not, "Mr. OP, you gotta stop with these spam calls. I mean, seriously, you gotta have something better to do with your time." This happened Thursday, and I'm still riding the high. Our next Reddit post is from Einwarp. I took the family, husband, kids, and a 1.5-year-old to an aquarium. We went to see the open ocean feeding. We got there 30 minutes early to snag good seats. Mission accomplished. With my husband and kids seated, I ran 2 of the kids to the bathroom. When I came back, about 20 minutes before showtime, some random 11-year-old kid had wedged himself right next to my husband. As my husband stood up to pass me the toddler, the kid scooted down the bench, leaving one tight spot. Awkward, but whatever. I sat down. My husband stood behind us with the kids on the floor next to me. Cue my toddler immediately starting to climb on the railing like a caffeinated monkey. I eventually gave him my seat so that he could sit and hang on the rail, and I sat down on the floor next to my other kids. And then the kid tried it again. As soon as I got up, he slid further down the bench like he was going for a gold medal in seat stealing. At this point, I made a decision. Enjoy sitting next to my fully charged toddler. The show starts, and my son proceeds to get up, sit down, hang on the railing, rinse and repeat about 4,782 times. The kid is visibly annoyed. I am spiritually thriving. Bonus, there was no one behind us, so my toddler's antics weren't bothering anyone but him. When my son hopped off the seat for a second, the kid tried to scoot in again, and I hit him with a, "Excuse me, he's sitting there." He moved. When he tried it again, I said, "You already scooted us off the bench. My son's sitting here." Mom voice activated. No parents in sight the entire time. Just me, my chaos goblins, and one very annoyed seat thief. Was it petty? Absolutely. Would I do it again? In a heartbeat. Our next Reddit post is from StarTac Aficionado. We purchased our first home a few years ago. We quickly learned that the immediate next-door neighbors hold, shall we say, antiquated opinions about race. The wife introduced herself on moving day and used that occasion to warn us that the Oriental couple across the street doesn't maintain their lawn. Okay. We had minimal interaction with them after that, until a few months later when the old curmudgeon husband apparently had too much to drink and felt empowered to share his true feelings across the fence. "You and your colored wife should move back to California." I informed him, in colorful language, I'm not from California. I'm actually from New York. Here's how you can tell, and I flipped him off. My colored wife informed him that she was born in the city that we currently live in. No apology. Not even enough self-awareness to blush. He takes insane pride in his yard and garden. I think it's the only reason he has to leave his couch. Every single time we pluck a mature dandelion, we walk over to the property line and blow the seeds in his direction. 3 years in, and half his garden plus a goodly portion of his lawn is now dandelions. Kind of funny, but also worth pointing out, dandelions are edible, so I've seen people completely replace their yard with dandelions, and I think clover is the other edible one. And you can literally just get down on your hands and knees like a cow and eat your own yard for a salad. Also, a lot of people in the comments are recommending kudzu, which is the world's fastest growing plant. Apparently, it grows so quickly that you can literally see it grow with the naked eye. Our next Reddit post is from Pierce Inadvertently. My 3-year odyssey of spite finally came together yesterday. When I was a fresh college grad in 2022, a 21-year-old woman at the time, I dated a 27-year-old attorney for about 3 months. He was a talented lawyer, spoke lucidly about what he did for work, and I trusted his opinions about the legal profession. So after I finished a post-grad internship, I told him my real post-grad aspiration was to get a job at a law firm as a paralegal and work as one until I was ready to apply for law school. He literally scoffed at me and told me I would be better off as a court clerk. I don't mean to harp on court clerks at all. It's a very difficult job, but it's more administrative in nature. And from the way he said it, it was exceedingly clear he meant the comment to be derogatory. He didn't elaborate on why he said this, but it was implied. I was taken aback and really effing hurt. But at 21, I hadn't learned to have a spine yet, so I brushed it off. A few weeks later, I was working my first paralegal job. We broke up shortly after for reasons I'm sure you can guess. Anyway, he was right that I'm not going to be a paralegal. I took my LSAT last fall, scored in the 98th percentile, sent out my applications, committed to UC Berkeley Law yesterday, and I'm going to become a lawyer. He's currently blocked on LinkedIn after I was the recipient of some profile creeping from him. But today, I'm going to unblock him so he can see. It's definitely reminiscent of that scene from Legally Blonde where she gets the prestigious internship. Remember those hours we spent in the hot tub on spring break? Well, this is so much better. Our next Reddit post is from Pastface. I used to work night shift as a nurse. One night, many years ago, I received a patient on my unit from the emergency room. My patient was accompanied by his lovely wife. When I introduced myself to them as being their nurse, I noticed immediately he was in severe pain. I reviewed his chart and orders. The doctor hadn't ordered any pain medication for him, just written to admit him to the unit. I called the doctor, who told me that he was not going to order anything until he reviewed the patient's chart and saw them. I was confused because he did see them in the emergency room, so why the delay? I tried to ask, but he insisted he would be up to the unit soon and then hung up. I apologized to the patient and the wife, relaying the doctor's message. Several minutes later, the doctor comes up and I ask him again for any pain medications I could give, as my patient was still having severe pain. The doctor told me no, and then proceeded to gather a bunch of charts and sit at the nursing station and ignore me. I went back to the patient's room again, apologized, and told him that the doctor was here but was wanting to review charts before making orders. I could tell the wife was becoming angry, as her poor husband was having severe pain with no relief. She asked me where the doctor was, and I gladly escorted her to the nursing station. I told the doctor that the patient's wife wanted to talk to him. I remember her ripping into him about the wait, her husband suffering, and his refusal to write for any medication. He immediately apologized and gave me orders for medications that could be given immediately. So, yay for family members who can yell at doctors because I can't. Beneath that, we have this story from Intraluminal. I am a nurse also, and this is my story of petty revenge. My wife had had an MI in one hospital, been revived, and sent to another hospital for a bypass. But it was Friday, so they told me they were going to send her home for the weekend. I resisted, of course, because she had nearly died without any warning at another hospital. Just collapsed. She was there for something else, and it was only by great luck that she collapsed in a hospital rather than at home, where I would have done CPR, but the save rate is very low without a defibrillator. So the doctor gave me this song and dance about how we're all on the same team, and they couldn't keep her over the weekend, blah, blah, blah. I finally said, we're not on the same team. I'm on her team, and you're on their team. But fine. Send her home. We live on the 3rd floor. she falls and breaks anything, hits her head or whatever, I'll be suing you, the hospital, you're attending, basically anyone I can get my hands on. Then I'll go to the board of licensure and start there, and I'll make sure your license is investigated. Then I'll write an article to the editor and put what you and this hospital did there. But fine, send her home. It's your license. She stayed, and she lived another 15 years. I miss her every day. It's honestly kind of sad that the best way to get anything done in the US medical care system is to yell at doctors because, they're doctors, they're here to help people, and usually it's the hospital policy that's the real problem. Our next Reddit post is from Bright as Yellow. I have a really memorable phone number, like 1234567 level distinct, so people often think that I'm making it up when I give it out. For years now, some businessman named Dan has been giving out my number to clients or people that he doesn't want to deal with, just to brush them off. I've usually been polite when these people call, just letting them know that they have the wrong number. Over time, I've picked up a surprising amount of info about Dan just by talking to the caller, like his full name, job title, and the company he works for. He's very real. I never wanted to get involved or reach out to him directly. But after years of this nonsense, I've had enough. Lately, when someone calls asking for Dan, I tell him he moved to Arizona because of some legal issues and embezzlement. And if they ask if there's a new contact at the company, I say the whole operation is under investigation. I really hope this rumor makes its way back to him, because, Dan, stop giving out my number. Seriously. Beneath that, we have this story from And Me Without My Towel. An old employee at my company, I never met them, gave out his old work number to people that he didn't want to deal with. Since I inherited that number, it was not fun. At first I was nice and thought that it was just people he didn't talk to, but after a while, it was obvious he was still giving it out. I started telling people, "Oh, Michael hasn't had that number for years. He only gives it out to people he doesn't actually want to talk to." Of course, then I get the calls, and I have to tell you that Michael thinks so little of you that he gave his old number to you to avoid you. It's a dick move for sure. Remarkably, after 3 to 4 times of that, he stopped giving his old number out. Our next Reddit post is from Red Phantom. Last week, I took a flight from Athens where I'd been visiting relatives to London. It was a late flight. I was exhausted and the plane was full. I was in a window seat, which I'd chosen so I could rest my head against the walls and sleep. But when I got to my row, there was a guy in my seat. He had big headphones on and had his head turned away from me. I tried telling him that he's in my seat, but he doesn't respond. I'm thinking maybe he can't hear me because of the headphones, so I gently tap him on the shoulder. No reaction. I try again. Still nothing. He doesn't even turn towards me. I'd like to clarify that he was clearly not asleep. He was sitting upright, and I could see that his eyes are open. I considered calling over a flight attendant to ask him to move, but there wasn't one nearby, and I'm not in the mood for it to be a whole thing, so I take the middle seat and quietly fume. A few minutes later, the young woman who's sitting in the aisle seat arrives and takes her seat. She's traveling with her friend, who's sitting in the window seat in the row behind us. They're talking to each other across their seats. Then, the woman sitting in the aisle seat turns to me and asks if I can swap with her friend so they can sit together. I say sure, no problem. Now, at this point, it's important to point out that her friend is very fat, borderline obese. I'm not fat shaming, I'm a heavy guy myself, but she is at least twice as wide as me. I probably would have swapped even if she hadn't been fat, but I saw a chance at revenge. As I get up to move, I see the guy sitting in my seat has turned around and realized what's about to happen. He does not look happy and gives me a look like he's saying, "Please don't move." I ignore him and swap seats. I spent the flight mostly with my eyes closed as I tried and failed to get a nap. But I do occasionally have a look at the row in front of me, and I'm very satisfied to see that the fat woman in front of me is taking up nearly half the window seat as well as her own seat, and the guy in my seat is squashed up against the wall of the plane. I hope he spent the flight thinking about how if he had just taken his own seat, he'd have been able to swap with the fat woman and I'd have been the one pinned against the wall. Maybe next time he'll think twice before he takes someone else's seat. AOP, don't forget, if you're behind him, you can add seat kicking into the equation. That was r/Pettyrevenge, and if you like this content, check out my podcast where I publish the exact same episodes. Also, hit that subscribe button because I put out new Reddit videos every single day.